Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. I'm Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral.
I am Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin, the executive minister. Faith and religion can be complicated for the LGBTQ plus community. Surveys show that evangelical faith is the justification for the greatest attacks on the LGBTQ plus community.
I am Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Minister of Education. The Queer God Squad is going to explore our religious community. Let's explore the big news of the day and what it means to you. This is live, and then we are available on demand. We are available on all smart televisions and your favorite social media.
Surveys show that religious faith and church are the main causes of trauma in the LGBTQ plus community. At Sunshine Cathedral, we're here to tell you that you're God's miracle, not God's mistake. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Is hypocrisy getting in the way of faith and God? In today's religious landscape, faith can often feel elusive. Much like former Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart's famous remark about pornography, I know it when I see it. However, when observing the actions of some prominent religious and political figures, faith seems increasingly difficult to identify. Many of these individuals and institutions, particularly on the right, are quick to demonize the left, not just for policy differences, but as morally corrupt, claiming they undermine society. A striking example of this is the recent decision by Republican governors in 15 states to reject a federally funded summer food assistance program, denying benefits to 8 million children. Despite rising food insecurity rates, these leaders, who often tout their family values, prioritize political posturing over helping vulnerable families. Additionally, state legislatures have introduced over 275 bills targeting LGBTQ plus rights for their 2024 sessions, following more than 500 similar bills last year. These measures seek to limit gender-affirming care, restrict LGBTQ plus rights in education, and further marginalize an already vulnerable community. This behavior highlights a troubling trend. Those who loudly proclaim their faith and morality often fail to embody the compassion and inclusivity they preach. The hypocrisy of such actions not only undermines the faith they profess, but also contributes to societal division and harm. It's a shame. And it's very troubling for those of us who wear this little piece of fetish wear, because it does make religion seem irrelevant and cruel and mean and just a weapon. There are countries where, in the West, where churches are basically museums. You go there to see pretty things from the past. You know, King somebody used to worship here, or Pope somebody's, bones are buried here, or like they're museums. For a worship service, you might have a dozen people in a room that sits 1,000. Or maybe you have these beautiful organ concerts, so you can hear these ancient organs or whatever, but it's just become irrelevant. And I think that's where we're going to be heading in this country. If it's already down, like 90% of people used to identify as religious, and now I think it's down to below 70%. And that's just in our lifetime, it's declined that much. And so as long as what religion is mean and abusive, and your justification for various bigotries, how sustainable is that? Who needs it? I don't need God to be mean. I can be mean all by myself. I don't need the saints. I don't need Jesus. I don't need scripture to be cruel and hateful. I can just do that on my own. Not have to learn anything. So why give you a percentage of my income to make me mean? I can be mean for free, right? So it just makes it be so silly. And religion for me is powerful, or can be powerful, because it's a building community on compassion. It's building community on mutual interest, on mutual care. It's taking care of the vulnerable. It's resisting systems of oppression. And so we come together, and worship is our celebration of our innate goodness and motivation to go out and do good in the world. But that is, for me, important. If you could convince me there is no God, and on some days I think you could, I would still value that worship experience and the mission of the church. But that's a very humanistic mission in my mind. It's about us being the best versions of ourselves, and then from that better place, trying to make the world a better place. That's and we can call that God or not. That's your business. But it's one more way of sort of embracing and sharing love, which is my definition of God. But for a lot of people, what religion is, it's the way to be right. It's the way to justify your opinions. It's the way to say that you're on the right side and everybody else is on the wrong side. It's the way of saying that, of course, I want women to stay in the kitchen, and I want gays to stay in the closet, and I want to be able to beat my kids, and we have dominion over the earth, so bring on the fossil fuels, and blah, blah. Religion is their way of justifying their prejudices or protecting their power or their privilege or pretending they know what can't be known so that at least they feel secure in an insecure world. And so they use it in sick and disturbing ways. And sadly, in our country and culture and time, their voices are the voices of religion. And we're just up here squawking in the background trying, no, there can be something else, there can be something else. But theirs is the main voice right now. And if that's what religion, if that's the best religion can be, it needs to go. It needs to die. We need to have empty rooms where we listen to organs and look at old, beautiful things. Pay a ticket price to get in, look around, take some photos, and go on about your life. I still think religion can be better than that, and we're working hard to offer something much more significant and relevant than that. But you can't have both. You can't have the mean God and the judging and the finger pointing and the wrist slapping and the name calling and the damning and the condemning and something good and relevant. You can't have both. We have to make a choice.
I don't think of religion as closed out war back in the late 60s, early 70s. Eventually they come back in style. And I don't think religion is one of those things that if we had it back in the 70s, early 80s, it's going to come back around to what it was before. We have to focus on what's new, what's changed, what's happening, what's relevant, and really get behind the things that's really been holding the church back. The world has changed, but it seems like this hypocrisy is going to always still be there on some level, and we have to challenge that. But the thing I want to highlight in that perspective that you also talked about was the 8 million kids that are going to be affected because of 15 governors. But yet they rather pass 275 bills that affect a vulnerable community. If that's not a level of hypocrisy,
right?
I don't know what else. Forget the church. Let's talk about these people who are leading this nation. And these are affecting lives. Families who can't afford income enough to pay the mortgage, pay the rent, buy food, and now this 15 set of governors have decided to affect the lives of 8 million people. Where is the justice in that? Let's pass bills to attack this group and this. So there's a lot of to go around, and where do we begin? I guess that's my question. What do we begin to do all this?
And when people say, I've heard people say, when we mention this, and they'll say, well, why should we? Why should we have to make sure that other people's children are fed? Because we're not monsters?
Yeah.
Because people are hungry and you don't want them to be hungry? Because we have the ability to fix it? But no, they will honestly say, that it's not, their parents should take care of them. And if they can't, they're just not trying hard enough, which is terribly myopic. The poor, no. I mean, our system is built so that the people who work the hardest make the money for other people. And so the rich people aren't the people who are doing all the hard work. They're putting the investment capital, they've got the grand idea. I'm not saying they shouldn't,
Right.
benefit, but a lot of times people they're employing people at not even livable wages.
Yeah.
And so the words working poor should never go together. And they do. And so, there's corporate greed, there's tax benefits for billionaires, there's all kinds of reasons why some people are just killing it and other people are just getting killed. And so if we're not going to fix that, we can at least supplement people who aren't making enough to get by. We can feed folks. We can make sure people have medicine. We can make sure we can do the right thing. And that there are people of faith who will look you in the eye and say, why us? Have you ever heard of this dude named Jesus? He would have an answer or two for that.
And this is one more thing. And this is the first group who would yell about anything, but it's about the kids. It's about the kids.
Yeah.
We're enacting these 275 laws over here to help against the LGBT community because it's about the kids.
If you take an 8-year-old to see a drag show, but oh my God, the kids.
Yeah, but
the hungry kid that you won't feed that way.
8 million of them you obviously don't give a fuck about. So get your priorities together.
Yeah. For me, it's a kind of a chicken and egg story. Which came first and how did it happen? Politicians have always railed against something, and a lot of times they try to bring in the religious community. Up until recently in America, not in the rest of history, but up until recently, America has been able to keep the two kind of separate. Now, when you look at conservative politics and religion, conservative religion, you don't see much of a separation between the two. The commentary is always negative. I don't know anyone in the conservative reign that would say, well, it's wrong for a billionaire to buy an extra yacht, but it's even worse for a mother of three to one day want a latte so bad that she breaks down and buys it. Now, she all of a sudden is a demon because of what she did.
Well, she should have a moment of
Why
pleasure.
should she enjoy anything? Because she is wretched and despicable and terrible, and it's her fault. No, it's not her fault. It is the fault of society for allowing stuff like that to happen. We talk about saving children. We talk about making sure that children are all right. That's only until they're born. That's only until they come into their first breath. And then it's everybody else's problem but society's problem. Until we are able to fix that dynamic, we're always going to have a problem with the politicians, 15 governors right now, 8 million children starving. We're always going to have that problem until we say it's wrong, and we say it's wrong as a society. How we get there, I don't know, but I do know that we at this church are doing everything that we humanly can to ensure that people get fed, that people understand that Jesus was a radical who pushed against governmental norms and fought for the little person. I don't know what else we can say to the rest of the world, except if you come to Sunshine Cathedral, you are going to hear a message that's different than in most places, but it is a message that rings true to the stories that we read about Jesus. So yeah, chicken and egg. I don't know which came first, but I know that we got to get this unscrambled.
And this is worse than just, selfish. They don't want to do their part. This is federally funded. I'm giving you the money to give to them, and you're saying no. That's pretty nefarious.
I like that word.
You don't tell me what to do. You can't make me give these people money, blah, blah, blah. I'm giving you the money to give, and you're still blocking. That's what makes it so unfathomable to me, is that there is a way to make lives better, and somehow it doesn't fit your ideology of politics. And that's the other thing, is that Jesus was executed. And he was executed in the most horrific way possible. One of the worst capital punishments in the history of capital punishment is crucifixion. It's humiliating, and it's also a slow asphyxiation. It is choking to death, and not quickly. And it's brutal, it's horrifying. And there was a lot of terror around it. It was done very publicly so that you wouldn't misbehave, because that could be you. It was reserved for insurrectionists and runaway slaves. People with any influence at all, any status at all, wouldn't be crucified. There were lots of ways to be killed, but with more dignity and quicker, so that you wouldn't suffer so much. It was just horrible. And Jesus died the death of an insurrectionist. Of a runaway slave, of someone with the least amount of privilege or power or access to those things, and he did it for challenging the status quo. And so we forget that this rebel, was executed the way rebels are executed, slowly, painfully, tortuously, and so that's who Jesus was, and the kind of attitudes that he opposed and was killed for opposing have now adopted him as their mascot, and it goes on. And so the people who don't care if your kids eat, who want to force you to give birth and then not help you with your kid, that these people, Jesus would find all of that horrifying, and yet they have taken him as their mascot. They're using him as their authority to be dictators and bullies, and so Christianity has been so subverted, it has to change. or die.
Or for it to survive.
But Bishop Spong said, why Christianity must change or die. Because it has to change to be better than it is, or it deserves to die. Justice demands that it die. There was about 300 years of the Jesus movement before it got subverted and taken over by imperialism. There was about 300 years of a Jesus movement. But even 100 years into that, it was basically a Pauline cult. So really there's about 100 years of Jesus movement, and there's about 200 years more of a Pauline cult that still share a lot of the same values. And then there's 1700 years of just good old-fashioned imperialism that's using Jesus as their mascot. And now in this country, about another 60 years of that on steroids. And so yes, Christianity has very little to do with Jesus. And increasingly less and less to do with Paul. And is all about power and control, and Jesus is just the weapon that they use to get that done. And call me Christian or not, I don't care. In fact, probably don't, because I don't want people to think I'm that is. But as people of faith, as faith leaders, we have to resist that. Maybe a losing battle. We may not win it. Got to fight it anyway. That we have got to say that what is being done in the name of Christianity is not historically Christian, and it is not currently acceptable.
And so it is.
Well, that's today on the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ plus community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's largest progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together, and we are all in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until the next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.